Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into something fascinating, those little quirks and unexpected traits that secretly make women more attractive. Now, we all know confidence and kindness are attractive, but what about the traits that aren't talked about as often? You might be surprised by what psychology has to say. And no, this isn't about following beauty standards or trends. In fact, some of these might be things you've never even considered attractive before, but once you know, you won't be able to unsee them. So stick around till the end, because you might just discover something about yourself or someone you admire. All right, let's jump right in. Attraction is a tricky thing. It's not always about looks or even personality in the way we typically think. Sometimes it's those little behaviors, unique habits, or even subtle flaws that make someone stand out. And believe it or not, science has actually backed this up. For example, have you ever met someone who wasn't necessarily the loudest or the most traditionally beautiful, but there was just something about them, something that made them unforgettable? That's exactly what we're talking about today. Now, the first thing that can make a woman more attractive, this one might shock you, is imperfection. Yep, you heard that right. Think about it. Have you ever seen someone fumble over their words a little or laugh at their own mistake and somehow it made them even more charming? That's called the pratfall effect. It's a psychological phenomenon where people who seem too perfect can actually be intimidating or unapproachable. But when someone shows a little vulnerability, it makes them more relatable, more human, and yes, more attractive. Now, don't get me wrong. This doesn't mean you have to start making mistakes on purpose. It just means that embracing your quirks and imperfections instead of hiding them can actually work in your favor. People love authenticity. It's way more appealing than trying to be flawless. Another unexpected trait? A unique voice. You might think people are drawn only to soft, traditionally feminine voices, but that's not necessarily true. Studies show that a slightly raspy, husky, or even deeper than average voice can be incredibly attractive. Why? Because it stands out. It signals confidence, uniqueness, and sometimes even a bit of mystery. Think of some of the most memorable voices in history, whether it's a singer, an actress, or even just someone you know personally. Their voice sticks with you, right? That's because it adds personality. And when someone has a voice that doesn't sound like everyone else's, it creates a sense of individuality that naturally draws people in. Moving on to something that might surprise you even more: expressiveness. You know that friend who talks with her hands, whose face lights up when she tells a story? Yeah, that's actually really attractive. Expressiveness shows passion, and passion is contagious. When someone speaks with energy, with their whole body, it pulls you in. It makes conversations more engaging. Compare that to someone who talks in a monotone, barely moving. It's just not the same, right? So, if you've ever felt like you're too expressive, guess what? That's a hidden superpower. Now let's talk about something that people don't often associate with attractiveness: a little bit of unpredictability. You know that woman who's full of surprises, the one who keeps people on their toes. Not in a chaotic way, but in a way that makes life more interesting. That's incredibly attractive. Psychologists call this the mystery factor. People are naturally drawn to those who don't fit into a predictable mold. When you have layers to your personality, when you keep evolving, learning, and surprising people, it makes you magnetic. No one wants to be bored in a relationship or friendship. A little bit of spontaneity keeps things fresh, and that's what makes certain women unforgettable. And finally, here's one that might change the way you see yourself: having a strong sense of purpose. Confidence isn't just about appearance or attitude, it's about having direction. When someone is passionate about something, whether it's their career, a hobby, or even a cause they deeply care about, it makes them incredibly attractive. Why? Because passion is inspiring. It shows dedication, depth, and a sense of identity. Have you ever been drawn to someone just because of how passionate they are about something? That's no accident. When you're excited about life, it makes others want to be a part of your world. So, let's wrap this up. Attractiveness isn't about fitting into some perfect mold. It's about the little things, the quirks, the confidence, the way you express yourself, the way you embrace who you are. If you've ever doubted whether you were attractive enough, remember this. The things that make you different are often the things that make you irresistible. Attraction isn't just about symmetrical features, the perfect body or following. Beauty trends. In fact, those things are often overrated. What really makes someone attractive, like genuinely unforgettable, goes way deeper than that. And the best part? Some of the most attractive traits are actually the ones that most people overlook or even try to hide. Think about this. Have you ever met someone who wasn't necessarily the most conventionally attractive person in the room, but somehow they owned the room? The way they talked, moved, or even carried themselves just pulled you in. That's what we're talking about today. Now let's start with something that might seem counterintuitive: imperfection. Yes, you heard that right. Being a little clumsy, messing up a word, or even having a slightly awkward moment. Believe it or not, that actually makes people like you more. This is called the pratfall effect, and psychologists have found that when someone seems too perfect, it actually makes them less likable. But when they show just a little bit of vulnerability, like laughing at themselves or admitting they made a mistake, it makes them more relatable and real. Think about your favorite celebrities or influencers. The ones who feel genuine are the ones who aren't afraid to show their human side, right? So, if you've ever worried about being a little awkward or making a mistake, embrace it. That might actually be one of the things that makes you more attractive. Now here's another one that most people don't realize: having a unique voice. And no, we're not talking about just sounding like a pop star or having a soft feminine voice. In fact, voices that stand out, whether they're slightly raspy, deeper, or just have a distinct rhythm, tend to be way more memorable. Think about it. When you hear someone with a voice that's different from the rest, it sticks with you. And science backs this up. Studies have shown that voices that carry a bit of personality, whether through tone, depth, or a unique rhythm, actually trigger stronger emotional responses in listeners. So, if you've ever felt self-conscious about your voice because it doesn't sound soft or perfect, stop right there. That uniqueness, that's what makes people remember you. All right, let's talk about a trait that often gets overlooked but is actually incredibly attractive: expressiveness. You know that person who tells a story with their whole body, using their hands, changing their facial expressions, and getting totally into what they're saying. Yeah, that's a magnet for attraction. Expressiveness shows passion, excitement, and energy. It makes conversations feel alive. Compare that to someone who barely moves, speaks in a monotone, and has a blank expression. Who would you rather talk to? Science has actually proven this. People are drawn to those who communicate with energy because it makes them feel engaged. So, if you're someone who gets really into conversations, who laughs loud, or who gestures a lot, own it. That's part of your natural charm. Now let's get into one of the most powerful and mysterious traits of all: a little bit of unpredictability. You know that feeling when someone keeps surprising you, not in a crazy, chaotic way, but in a way that makes life more interesting. That's incredibly attractive. Think about it. Have you ever been drawn to someone because they weren't too predictable? Maybe they suddenly suggested a spontaneous road trip, or they introduced you to a new hobby you never expected to like. That kind of energy is exciting, and it keeps people coming back for more. Psychologists say that unpredictability activates our brain's reward system, meaning when someone keeps surprising us in a good way, our brain actually associates them with excitement and pleasure. So if you've ever felt like you don't always fit into a typical mold, or that you have a spontaneous streak, that's what makes you magnetic. And finally, let's talk about one of the most underrated yet incredibly powerful traits: a strong sense of purpose. There's something undeniably attractive about someone who knows what they're passionate about. Whether it's their career, a hobby, or even just a personal goal, that drive and focus makes them stand out. Why? Because people are naturally drawn to passion. When you're excited about something, it creates an energy that others want to be around. Think about it. Have you ever been fascinated by someone simply because of how much they love what they do? It's not about having everything figured out. It's about having something that excites you. That's what makes you magnetic. So, let's wrap this up. The bottom line? Attraction isn't about fitting some perfect image. It's about embracing the things that make you you. The quirks, the passion, the way you express yourself. Those are the things that make you unforgettable. And trust me, if you've ever doubted whether you were attractive enough, remember this: the most attractive people are the ones who embrace what makes them different. So if you found this video interesting, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And let me know in the comments, what's a unique trait that you find attractive in others? Let's get a conversation going. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.